Hello, I'm Jacqueline McInnes Wood, and welcome back to my official channel.
Hello, everyone. I am Jacqueline McInnes Wood, and welcome back to my official channel. So I am sitting here at my computer, and it is ridiculously late. My coffee is cold, and my eyes are burning from staring at this screen for hours. But I just had to get this out to you guys right now. I am typing furiously because the news I just got about The Bold and the Beautiful is completely insane. I mean, it is just wild. We have all been watching the show lately and wondering what on earth is going on with Ivy Forrester. She has been acting so out of character, just completely unhinged and mean. But it turns out there is a massive medical reason for all of it. And I mean massive. I am just going to dump all this information on you right now because my brain is spinning. So it turns out Ivy has a brain tumor. Yes, you heard me right. A literal tumor growing inside her head. And this is not just some small thing. This tumor has been growing and growing, and it is actively pressing against a major nerve in her brain. And this pressure is what has been causing all of her crazy behavior lately. It is putting her into a state of extreme paranoia, like total psychological breakdown levels of paranoia. She is not just being a typical soap opera villain who wants to meddle in her family affairs. She is literally sick. Her brain is misfiring. The tumor is completely altering her reality and making her see threats where there are none. I am just sitting here thinking about all the scenes we have watched over the past few weeks and replaying them in my head with this new information. It changes absolutely everything. And you know how she has been so intensely focused on Melissa Dillon. We all thought Ivy was just being a snob. We thought she just hated Dylan because of her past or because of the kiss with Will Spencer. But no, because of this tumor, Ivy genuinely believed that Dylan was a highly dangerous person, like a literal physical threat to her family. Her paranoid brain convinced her that Dylan was some sort of monster who was going to destroy Elektra and everyone else. It is so scary to think about your own mind turning against you and making you believe these terrifying delusions. Ivy was walking around Forrester Creations every single day in a state of absolute terror and defensive rage. She thought she was protecting her niece from a dangerous predator. So when Steffi Forrester Finnegan offered Dylan that job as a receptionist, Ivy completely lost her mind. We watched Ivy storm into the CEO office with Elektra and demand that Steffi fire Dylan immediately. We thought Ivy was just being a controlling aunt. But in Ivy's twisted tumor-riddled mind, she was trying to stop a dangerous criminal from infiltrating her family business. She was acting cold-blooded and ruthless because she thought it was a matter of life and death. The paranoia made her strip away all of her normal empathy and compassion. She became a machine focused entirely on neutralizing the threat of Dylan, and she did not care who she had to hurt to make that happen. But it was not just Dylan. Ivy also viewed Will Spencer as a massive danger. She looked at Will and saw a threat. She saw someone who was going to ruin Elektra. And so she decided she had to separate them permanently. We all saw her steal that heartfelt letter that Elektra wrote for Will. We watched her snatch it and hide it in her purse. And then we watched her take Will's broken necklace and place it on Elektra's desk to make it look like Will was completely done with her. It was such a cruel and calculated move. Daphne Rose even caught her doing some of this and tried to stop her. Daphne told Ivy that what she was doing was wrong because Will and Elektra actually love each other. And Ivy just looked at Daphne with this smug and cold expression. She defended her actions completely. She told Daphne to keep her mouth shut. She even threatened Dylan later to keep quiet or else she would ruin her. It was so hard to watch Ivy act like this dark and twisted manipulator. But now we know the truth. While she was standing there arguing with Daphne, her head must have been absolutely pounding. The pressure in her skull must have been agonizing. But the tumor was telling her that she was right. The tumor was telling her that Will and Dylan were dangerous enemies and that she was the only one who could save Elektra. It is just so incredibly tragic when you really stop and think about it. So Ivy goes even further. Her paranoid brain decides that Elektra needs a safe protector, and she zeroes in on RJ Forrester. She starts pushing Elektra towards RJ because she thinks RJ is safe. She actively manipulates the situation to get them together. She spies on them when they go for a moonlight swim. She watches them taking selfies on the beach and feels this twisted sense of triumph. She thinks she has saved Elektra from the dangerous Will Spencer, and all the while her own brain is slowly killing her. She is standing there in the shadows watching RJ and Elektra, and her brain is just short-circuiting. The nerves are being crushed by this growing mass, and then the inevitable happens. The breaking point. Ivy is at work at Forrester Creations. She is probably in the middle of scheming or yelling at someone or just trying to keep her delusions organized. And the pressure just becomes too much. The tumor presses too hard. Her body just gives out. She faints. She completely collapses right there on the floor of the fashion house. I can just picture the scene in my head. The sudden drop, the thud on the floor, the absolute panic from everyone around her. Maybe Elektra was there. Maybe RJ was there. Maybe even Dylan was standing nearby watching the woman who had been tormenting her suddenly fall to the ground unconscious. So they call 911. The paramedics rush in. There are sirens and flashing lights and complete chaos at Forrester Creations. They load Ivy onto a stretcher and rush her to the hospital. And this is where things get really intense because they get her to the emergency room and they start running tests. They do the MRI and the CT scans, and they are trying to figure out why this relatively young and healthy woman just dropped out of nowhere and who happens to be there to take the case. Dr. John Finnegan. Finn is the one who looks at the scans, and Finn is the one who sees the terrifying truth. Finn looks at the imaging and he sees this massive tumor. He sees exactly where it is located and how it is pressing directly on the nerves that control behavior and emotion and reality processing. He realizes in an instant that this is not just a fainting spell. This is a critical life or death medical emergency. The tumor is so large and the pressure is so severe that Ivy could die if they do not act immediately. Finn knows that there is no time to wait. He cannot schedule a surgery for next week. He has to do it right now. It is an emergency surgical situation. I am just imagining Finn running down the hallway in his scrubs. He is barking orders to the nurses. He is getting the operating room prepped. He is an absolute hero in this moment. He knows the Forrester family history, and he knows how much Ivy means to everyone despite her recent crazy behavior. He knows he has to save her life. So he scrubs in. He goes into that operating room and he begins this incredibly delicate and dangerous brain surgery. He has to cut into her skull and carefully remove this mass without damaging the surrounding brain tissue. The stakes are just astronomically high. And while Finn is in surgery, the rest of the family is probably gathering in the waiting room. Elektra is probably crying her eyes out. She has been so angry at her aunt lately, but now she is terrified of losing her. And maybe this is the moment where the truth starts to come out. Maybe Daphne finally breaks down and tells Carter Walton the truth about the stolen letter and the broken necklace. And maybe Dylan finally tells someone about the threats Ivy made against her. But now all of that anger and resentment is completely overshadowed by the fact that Ivy is fighting for her life on an operating table. It makes you think about how we judge people. We saw Ivy doing all these horrible things and we just assumed she was being a bad person. We judged her so harshly. Elektra was probably so confused about why her aunt was acting so cold and ruthless. Will was probably furious at her interference. Dylan was terrified of her, but none of them knew that she was fighting a literal monster inside her own head. The tumor was the real villain all along. It was hijacking her personality and turning her into someone she is not. It is such a brilliant twist from the writers. I have to give them credit for this one. It explains everything so perfectly. So Finn is in the operating room for hours. It is a grueling surgery. He is carefully extracting the tumor piece by piece, relieving the pressure on that nerve. And the good news is that Finn is a brilliant doctor. He manages to get the tumor out. The surgery is a success. Finn saves Ivy's life. He comes out of the operating room and he delivers the news to the family. He tells them that Ivy's going to make it. She is going to survive. But he also has to explain to them what the tumor was doing to her. He has to sit Elektra and everyone else down and tell them that Ivy's extreme paranoia and her cold-blooded actions were symptoms of the disease. Can you imagine the shock on Elektra's face when she hears that she has been spending all this time thinking her aunt was just an interfering meddler? But now she realizes that her aunt was actually deathly ill. And all of those actions, the stealing of the letter, the broken necklace, the pushing her towards RJ, it was all because of a sick brain trying to protect her from imagined dangers. Elektra is going to feel so incredibly guilty for being angry at Ivy. She is going to realize that her breakup with Will was entirely orchestrated by a medical emergency. And what does this mean for Will and Dylan? Will has been moving forward with Dylan because he thought Elektra was done with him. He saw the social media posts of Elektra and RJ at the Forrester mansion swimming in the pool. He thought it was over. And Dylan has been keeping the secret about Ivy's meddling because she was afraid of losing her job and losing Will. She was giving in to the threats of a woman with a brain tumor. But now that the truth is going to come out, everything is going to explode. Will is going to find out that his relationship was sabotaged by a literal medical anomaly. But is it too late for Will and Elektra? Will has already kissed Dylan. He is already moving towards a passionate encounter with her. And Elektra has already shared that sizzling moment with RJ on the beach. She has been leaning on RJ for comfort, and their connection has deepened so fast. Even if they find out that Ivy was not in her right mind when she broke them up, so much damage has already been done. They have both started to move on with other people. It is such a messy and complicated situation, and I am absolutely here for it. I love this kind of drama. And think about Dylan for a second. Dylan was put in this impossible situation. She overheard Ivy and Daphne talking. She confronted Ivy and busted her for keeping Will and Elektra apart. But Ivy manipulated her into staying quiet by pointing out that if the truth came out, Will would go back to Elektra and Dylan would be left with nothing. Dylan chose survival over the truth. She let her fear of being homeless again guide her choices. But now that she finds out Ivy was acting out of paranoid delusions caused by a tumor, Dylan is going to feel an immense amount of guilt. She kept a secret for a sick woman, and it ruined multiple lives. And then there is Daphne. Daphne has been carrying this heavy secret for weeks. She knew what Ivy did. She saw her steal the letter. She tried to tell her it was wrong. But Ivy pressured her and warned her to keep her mouth shut. Daphne has been bottling this up while trying to have romantic moments with her husband, Carter. She has been stressing over trying to conceive a baby while carrying the weight of this massive lie. And now she is going to find out that she was being bullied by a woman suffering from severe brain trauma. Daphne is going to wish she had spoken up sooner. She could have maybe gotten Ivy medical help before she collapsed. This whole storyline just shifts the entire dynamic of the show. It takes a classic soap opera trope, the interfering family member, and turns it into a tragic medical drama. It makes you feel sympathy for a character who has been acting like a total villain. I have to say, I am so relieved that Finn was there to save her. Finn really does not get enough credit for being the resident lifesaver on this show. He is always stepping up when things get critical. And performing emergency brain surgery to save a Forrester is definitely going to earn him some major points with Steffi and the rest of the family. But the road to recovery for Ivy is going to be long. She is going to wake up in that hospital bed and she is going to be so confused. The paranoia will hopefully fade as the pressure on the nerve is gone, but she is going to have to face the reality of what she did while she was sick. She is going to have to look Elektra in the eye and apologize for ruining her relationship with Will. She is going to have to understand that she viewed Dylan and Will as dangerous monsters purely because her brain was broken. The psychological fallout from this is going to be huge. How do you even begin to make amends for things you did when you were not in control of your own mind? Ivy is going to have a really hard time forgiving herself. And Elektra is going to have a hard time navigating her feelings. She loves her aunt, but her aunt completely derailed her life. And Will is going to be furious, but also conflicted. He cannot exactly yell at a woman who just had her skull cut open. It is going to force all of these characters to show some grace and forgiveness, which is not exactly something they are known for. I am just typing all of this out and my hands are cramping, but I am so invested in this. I keep thinking about the exact moment the tumor started affecting her. Was it weeks ago? Was it when she first arrived back in town? How long has she been suffering in silence? She probably had terrible headaches that she just ignored or blamed on stress. She probably felt dizzy and just pushed through it. She is such a strong and stubborn character. She would never admit that something was wrong with her physically. And that stubbornness almost cost her her life. It is also crazy to think about how this impacts the other storylines. While all of this is happening, Steffi is busy fighting with Taylor and Deacon. Brooke and Katie are at war over the Logan fashion line. Bill is screaming about stolen designs. Everyone is so caught up in their own petty drama. And meanwhile, Ivy is literally collapsing from a brain tumor. It really puts things into perspective. It shows how fragile life is and how quickly everything can change. One minute you are arguing about a fashion launch and the next minute your family member is in emergency surgery. I really hope we get some good hospital scenes out of this. I want to see Finn explaining the medical details. I want to see the scans. I want to see the emotional moments by the hospital bed. I want to see Elektra holding Ivy's hand and crying. I want to see Will standing in the doorway looking conflicted. This is the kind of raw emotional drama that makes daytime television so great. It is not just about who is kissing who or who is stealing what company. It is about family and survival and the crazy things that happen to the human body. And I have to wonder if this experience will change Ivy permanently. Even after the tumor is gone and she recovers, will she be a different person? Will facing her own mortality make her softer? Will it make her less manipulative? Or will she go right back to her old ways once she is fully healed? I kind of hope she changes. I hope she realizes that life is too short to spend it scheming and plotting against people. I hope she learns to just let Elektra make her own choices and live her own life. But knowing Ivy, she will probably find something else to meddle in eventually. For now, though, she just needs to heal. She needs to rest and recover from the